left, nothing safe, not even a crust. All aboard for a fat boy trip, and you can call me captain. Don't forget the paper plates and the stack of napkins. P-I-C-C-A, P-A-R-T-Y. P-I-C-C-A, P-A-R-T-Y. Pizza party, pizza party. Gonna have a good time. Pizza party, pizza party. Have a sip of red wine. Yeah!
Ciao, paisans! Woohoo! It's that time again, fresh from the oven. Joey Royale's Pizza Party, celebrating everything that has to do with that beautiful beast they call Dungeon Crawl Classics. And boy, we got a show for you tonight. Pour that, I can't even speak, I'm so excited. Pour that glass of orange soda tall. Get a bunch of napkins, because, oh, man, it's going to be a mess flying by the seat of my slacks tonight. Let me take a look at you all. It's been a month. Oh, looking good. Smelling good. Here we go. It's springtime. Beautiful Persephone has escaped the grasp of Hades. She's back for a little bit. She said, hey, you knucklehead. Leave me alone. I'm going up. I'm going to spread joy. Look at everything blossom and bloom. I'm feeling good. I'm running on 10 milligrams of sunshine. Oh, and 20 milligrams of Lexapro. We're going to have a blast tonight, all right? My main man, one of my biggest DCC idols. I'm fanboying out tonight. Mr. Michael Curtis is here, all the way from the Shudder Mountains. I got my family. I got Dr. Metal. I got cousin Marty. I got Elena. We're all here, and we're going to have a blast. Woo! Thanks for being here. So how you been? Yeah, I've been pretty good, too. Winter was long. Winter was dark. But we're getting out of that. There's a lot of good things popping up around. I got my mojo working. I'm writing. I'm thinking. I got out of my boredom slump, like I told you a couple episodes ago. If you even remember, if you even watched a couple episodes ago, I'm just assuming. I forced myself to get bored. I pumped out a bunch of stuff, and I said, all right, Royale, calm down a second. You're not going to just start throwing spaghetti against the wall. Take it easy. Get bored. Think about what you love, and then you get back on the horse and start writing again. So that's what we've been doing. Thank you very much, Knoxwell. Great radio show. Yeah, I've been doing a radio show now. Lord Blood's Crypt of Cool, another extension of the Pizza Party. You can see me every other, or hear me. Can't see me. It's radio, for crying out loud. You can hear me every other Saturday at WCNI New London, 90.9 from 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to midnight. All right? So not this Saturday, but next Saturday. I'll post it on the Facebook. I'm playing all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, the Cramps, Link Ray, all of that good stuff. So let's get into the Crypto Cool, because I don't want to waste too much time, because we got big shoes coming on tonight. All right. So here we go. Buckle up into the Crypto Cool. All right, we're back. Now, I got some special selections from the Crypto Cool tonight, all Shudder Mountain themed. Okay. Now, I'll tell you what, the Shudder Mountains struck a deep chord with me when I first got into DCC. When I first got into DCC, this came out soon after, and this was like my first big boy purchase for DCC. All right, this was a couple extra bucks. This wasn't one $10 splat book that I love. This was like, okay, Joey, now you take out the Batman wallet, take out a couple of extra bills, and this was my first big purchase off the internet, and boy, it did not disappoint. Let me tell you a little something funny before I get. So basically, show you some Crypto Cool stuff that was all influenced by this. But I'll tell you a story. Chain Coffin, I get it. This is when I had a local in-person, pre-COVID group getting together. All these guys were also new, and this is one of the first fantasy RPGs that my wife and her friends played too. So we had all these people around the table. It was like a big one. It was like one of my biggest judging groups ever. And we were outside. This was a great story. I'll do it fast for you. So we're all outside. I'm running it for like 8 people. My wife, a couple of her girlfriends, a couple of my guy friends and their wives, and we're all playing. We're all playing this one, Sour Spring Hollow. All right, because I wanted to switch it up. They're like, "Oh, you Stranger Things and you Dragons." No. We're doing something different. All right, we're going in the backwoods of Shudder Mountains. We're getting weird, and so we played. We're on the Hobb Farm. For those of you that are familiar, I won't do any spoilers, but we're at the denouement, like the crescendo of the thing, right? And it's the closest thing I've ever seen to a fist fight breaking out during a role-playing game session. I swear in my mother's eyes, I really thought one of my friends was going to reach across the table and punch this other kid in the nose because they took the family thing way too seriously. All right. Like they had their factions, they had their families. And this one, and my other friend who we were playing with, he's like, "Hey, can I bring my level 1 player that just leveled up from Sailors?" Like he got really attached. I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Put them in. We'll have everybody else has 0 levels." Maron. This one guy took the thing too seriously. He's like, "Oh, well, no, it's my family that he's going against, so I got to kill him." And this guy had invested so much time. It was his first player. And it got serious, and we had to take a breath for a second. So we're all yelling. Everything's going nuts. I got the Carter family blasting on the stereo in this kid's backyard. And there's this big money house. He had this little house, big money house next to him. And all of a sudden, it's like 11 o'clock at night in the middle of summer. The lights go on. I'm like, "Oh, man, they're calling the police on us." And the guy comes out. He goes, "Excuse me. What are you doing over there?" Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We'll quiet down." He's like, No. I asked you what you're doing. And he comes over, and it's like this hippie guy. I'm like, "All right, we're kind of cool." And he goes, I said, "We're playing a role-playing game. You know, it's called." He's like, No, I understand what a role-playing game is. And I thought that's what you were doing. He goes, "Keep it up." And he gave us a bottle of mead. It was wonderful. There was no police involved. Oh, that was afterwards when we had to bury the body of the kid that tried to kill the other guy. But that, to me, that whole session just made the Shudder Mountains even cooler. I'll never forget that. So thank you, Michael, for planting that. But let's get to the Crypto Cool. Here we go. Let's do right here, okay? One of my favorite music groups of all time, the Carter family. Man, there is something not only like beautiful and wholesome, but haunting. This is scary music. This is not like good time music, all right? In almost every single song, whether they're spirituals or story songs or not, man, there's always the lurking specter of death. Like, "Oh, we're going to have a good time, but just wait because the Reaper's right there and he's going to get mom." I mean, just for an intro, listen to the, "Will the circle be unbroken?" Man, if you don't tear up a little bit after hearing that, there's something the matter with you. But I don't judge. So listen, if you want to get into the mood for the Shudder Mountain, Harry Smith, Alan Lomax, all that great stuff. You can find all that stuff on Spotify, all the field recordings. But I'll tell you, right here, Appalachia at its finest. Because, and I'm not going to give you a history lesson. I'm not an anthropologist. I'm not a sociologist. And I know Michael's much more research stuff on this. But, man, Shudder Mountains, based on Appalachia, what an interesting part of our country, of America. There's a lot of bad stereotypes. There's a lot of pain down there, a lot of suffering, and they've been given the short end of the stick, but a lot of stereotypes. But what a interesting thing, the resiliency of the Appalachian people, the diversity. There's so many cultures at play there. African culture, German culture, Swedish culture, Americana. That's where Americana comes from. I play the banjo, and the band. If you didn't know, the banjo, the foundation of the banjo comes from Africa, and the banjo really blossomed as the banjo, as an Americana music in Appalachia. So I eat this stuff up. So when I saw this, it introduced me to stuff. It was a connection to the stuff I always loved: the Carter family, Doc Boggs, all that really cool, spooky music. And then, thanks to Mr. Curtis, I had never heard of Manly Wade Wellman before. So, man, I got that box set and like a nut, I had to go find them all. And I hit it big. I got this. I told you about this place before, the Book Barn, Niantic, Connecticut. I'll tell you my secrets because I love you all. This was my first find after 2 years going every Wednesday. I would go every Wednesday on my way home from work. I found John the Balladeer. All right. Beautiful hardcover book. I come back 3 weeks later. Woo! Boom, boom, boom. Look at this. Lost in the Lurking, After Dark, and The Old Gods Awaken. I got to hit these two. I already conquered this one. And this one, this one is really cool because this is strictly like the Silver Strings, brother, John the Balladeer. And from what I read in these other ones, they're very good too. But kind of hard to find. You gotta look stuff up. And maybe Michael, when he comes on, will give us some hits on how to find those beautiful treasures. Now, since we're on Shudder Mountains, not directly related, but great inspiration for me. This one right here. I love you, Shirley Jackson. There's just something about her stuff that it's not necessarily Appalachia, but there's that Americana folk horror that, oh, you can't go wrong. It's timeless too. It really is timeless. So this is The Lottery and Other Short Stories. I'm sure you read The Lottery in high school in an English lit class, but she's got so much other great stuff. Especially, I can't recommend enough to all you pizza maniacs out there, is We Have Always Lived in the Castle. That has been fodder for me when I kind of do my own Shudder Mountains homebrew. I've run a lot of kind of games off the books, out of the modules, to make Shudder Mountains my own. So if you're a Shudder Mountains maniac like I am, I got that. And then sort of as a tangent to the Crypt of Cool, I want to show you something that was you're going to crack up about this, that was inspired by the Shudder Mountains, a little crafting, a little dungeon crafting that I've done. Not even dungeon, more like backwoods swamp crafting for one of my games for inspiration. And anybody, if Joey can do this, baby, you can do this, okay? Check this out. I made a little Shudder Mountains cabin. You see that? That's all organic. There's no plastic on this one, baby. It's very easy. Here's what you do. When you get some cardboard after you order something from Goodman Games, all right, you cut it in a circle. That's all I did. I cut it in a circle, and then I cut it and made another circle and made a cone. I went out in the woods, and all I did is I took some bark. All that is, you knuckleheads, is bark and twigs just hot glued around a circle. The same on top. I got some moss. I took my little Lone Ranger knife, my little pocket knife I had as a kid. I shaved some of the moss off the rocks, hot glued it. You can't go wrong. Anybody can do this. And it was a fun little piece on the table. I'm thinking about making one where I cut the top off and make a little cardboard ramp so I can shoot the dice down it. So there you go. A little dungeon crafting or swamp crafting with Joey Royale. Thanks to all the beautiful stuff that Mr. Manly Wade Wellman and Mr. Michael Curtis has made. So that's that. Yeah, the hut needs chicken legs. That's right. Little, what's her name? Baba Yaga kind of thing over there. Ghosty Squid. How do you know about the Book Barn? You local? You gotta come. We gotta go have a slice together sometimes. So, yeah, Old Gods of Appalachia. They're talking about. There's so much beautiful stuff out there. And there's one more thing, or two more things I want to tell you about that I don't have in my hand. I like a show and tell, but boy, I'm talking a lot today. I want you to check out, if you haven't already, Harrow County. When I got into Shudder Mountains, I tried to find as much stuff as possible to support my hunger for more. Harrow County is a Dark Horse Comics series. Oh, man. I got the craziest ideas. For, NPCs, but of course, creatures. The skinned boy. You got, listen, Harrow County. You can't go wrong. Pick of the week for you. All right. Ghosty Squid, you're in Groton. Mo! You're right next door to me, man. All right. Are you the guy running MCC at the Citadel? I wonder if you are. All right. So there we go. I'm going to come by and give you a high five. I'm going to give you some free stuff. So there's that. And I was going to pay. Oh, this other thing, too. If you like Shudder Mountains and the Appalachian stuff. One of these guys, they were very near and dear to my heart. We used to play shows together. I had a band called the Lonesome Doves years ago. We were like murder country goth stuff. And we would always play with these guys called Oh Death. And I highly recommend Oh Death. That's the name of the band. And I know there was just a third-party zine that came out called Oh Death too. So that's that. Ghosty Squid, I haven't met you yet, but I sent you stuff. I can't wait to meet you in Groton. And me and my kid and some of his friends, we're going to do an MCC. So Ghosty Squid, if any of you are in Southeast Connecticut, he's running MCC games for the road crew at one of the best gaming store on the East Coast called the Citadel. It's in a basement. It's covered in dust. You can find all sorts of weird stuff. Awesome. Very good. So that's that. Now it's time. I got to keep moving. I'm going nuts tonight because I'm so excited. You know how much I love doing this show and interacting with all of you. This is really, man, I love doing this. You keep my gas tank full. So, wisdom check. Boom. Here we go. It's funny how these things pop up. Sometimes I just open the book and I say, what's going to be good for the show? But it has to do with stuff that's going on in my mind lately. So let's try to make the connections here. We're going to talk about, real quick, we're going to talk about our good friend Marcus Aurelius, and then we're going to talk about our other good friend, producer extraordinaire and great thinker, Mr. Rick Rubin, okay? So here's what we're going to make a connection here about creativity, first with Marcus Aurelius. Ready? Oh, wrong page. Here's the other ripped up receipt that's holding the mark here. Here we go. It never ceases to, this is not me, this is Marcus, another great Italian. It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. If a god appeared to us, or a wise human being even, I'll say it like Snagglepuss, or a wise human being even, and prohibited us from concealing our thoughts or imagining anything without immediately shouting it out, we wouldn't make it through a single day. That's how much we value other people's opinions instead of our own. This one hit me right in the solar plexus, because I've been thinking about, we all got flaws. One of them is I got a bad competitive streak sometimes. And it's only because I doubt myself. It's imposter syndrome. So every time I put something out, I'm constantly checking the reviews on drive-through, nervous that somebody put something there that I don't like it that much, or it wasn't that good. And then I was looking at, hottest small press. I'm looking through the numbers. I'm like number 999. Like, oh, what's the matter with me? I want to be number one. Same time I did the Kickstarter. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't get that badge that says funded in, 30 seconds. We care so much about what other people think, it can really get in the way of our own creativity. And unfortunately, I think it stops a lot of people from creating. It's very easy to shoot somebody in the heart with a bad review and shut somebody down really quick. So we got to understand it as well. Not only does it hurt us when we're trying to create stuff, but if you got a couple pops in you and you think a module or a zine is kind of, it's kind of goofy, it's kind of garbage, and you write that out there, shooting from the hip, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings. It's always good to be constructive in your feedback, but you don't got to be mean about it. And unfortunately, social media makes that very easy to take low blows from people. But enough of my preaching. I'm going to go listen to what Rick Rubin has to say about this, about competition and its effect on creativity. He says, art is about the maker. Its aim to be an expression of who we are. This makes competition absurd. Every artist's playing field is specific to them. You are creating the work that best represents you, you knucklehead. Another artist is making the work that best represents them. The two cannot be measured against one another. Please listen to that. Art relates to the artist making it and the unique contribution they are bringing to the culture. He continues to go on about how people say, well, competition can be good. It pushes you. Yeah, but make sure the competition is healthy. Make sure you're competing against the previous you. I'm going to go through this quick. He goes, there's another type of competitiveness that might be seen as an infinite gain. a story that can continue to unfold over the course of an artist's life. This is the competition with the self. Think of self-competition as a quest for evolution. The object is not to beat our other work. It's to move things forward and create a sense of progression. Growth over superiority. Ow, right in the kisser. Healthy competition with oneself, not trying to beat somebody else or beat yourself. Man, take care of yourself out there, especially if you're stuck in a rut and you feel that nobody's going to like your stuff. Who cares? I guarantee you, there's enough of us weirdos out there that somebody's going to drop a couple bucks and send you a note that says, hey, man, or hey, person, this is awesome. Thanks for making this. I really appreciated getting this in the mail. Make something. That's what we do as humans. That's what makes humans humans. We got these things and we got these things. So go out there. All right? All right. One more thing before we let him in. I pulled a card. Let's see how we're doing from the Garbage Pail Kids Tarot book. I pull a card right before the show randomly, not to waste your time. And this evening, we got, oh, look at that snail, poor thing. 6 of Swords, upright. Here we go. 6 of Swords, 6 of S words. Here we go. Crushed Shelley is the snail's name. This card represents mental growth and moves that lead to important changes in perspective. You're going through a transition that will open your eyes to a lot of new ideas and ways of thinking. Be open to change, and like a slimy snail chugging along, keep moving forward at your own pace. Trust that this process will do you a world of good in the end. Boy, I can't stress that enough. Give yourself a timeline, but make sure that it's manageable for you so it doesn't ruin the joy of creating your art. All right. There we go. There we go. Ninja City 2. It's in the works. It's in the works. Me and Cousin Marty are talking stuff. Speaking of, Elena, how you doing? Can we let the guys in? Nana was just yelling at him. Where are they? Are you there?
Joey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Look at them. You guys are looking nice tonight.
I got some bad news for you, though.
What's the matter? Don't tell me another Olive Garden burned down.
Well, Cousin Marty is in Rikers Island. I got a note from him right here, so you can see. There you go.
Oh, my God. Wait, let's read it out loud, please.
It says, "Hayes, use guys. Here are some overdue tapes I need returned." So I got a stack of his VHS tapes he wanted me to return, but we're going to talk about them because it's all about...
Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't met him yet, this is the Neon Lord. He's one of Cousin Marty's associates and an honorary pizza party maniac.
Yeah, so supposedly the rumor is that there was a 1991 Showbiz Pizza incident that caught up to old Marty and mixed in with the Olive Garden burning downs allegedly.
All right. Well, I know I'll let Nana know. I'll let her down easy. She'll light the candle to St. Jude, the patron saint of impossible causes, to help him out. So, Neon Lord, what did he send you?
So it looks like he went along with the exploitation theme that's going on. So it looks like we have Hills Have Eyes Part 2.
Oh.
Goes with a mutated hillbillies. You know, I would go with the Angel Family Gang from Judge Dredd personally, but you know, I don't judge Marty's taste.
Yeah,
we got Dan Haggerty, Grizzly Adams, in wearing a Canadian tuxedo on the front, Macon County War.
Macon County War, and what is he holding? Is that an AR-15?
I believe that is a shotgun.
A shotgun. Okay. What's the story with Macon County War?
Yeah, it's a shotgun. So a down on his luck singer teams up with his undercover cop brother to expose the city mayor about a toxic dump scheme that's going on in his hometown.
Please tell me he plays both brothers in the movie.
No, unfortunately. Then we get into the better exploitations. We got Redneck Zombies.
That one scarred me as a kid.
Barrel of Toxic Waste turned into a moonshine still, I believe they're called, and turns the redneck zombies into, well, rednecks into zombies, if you will, and they stalk and hunt a bunch of hippies and campers. Great movie. But
I saw that on Commander USA, Groovy Movies. One of my favorite horror hosts of all time. On
Classic.
The yeah.
So when it comes to exploitation, there's only one. There's only one. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. It's awesome. They only made 2 of these, and they're both perfect.
I'm glad they stopped when they did. Yeah. I'm glad they realized they had a good thing. They said, you know what? We got one. It was a legend. Number 2 was a great little sidetrack. And they said, which many people don't, let's stop while we're ahead.
Exactly. Grade A, chef's kiss. Doesn't get better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You know what? That's the only movie I actually threw up during.
No joke?
No joke. No, I was I was in college and I wasn't feeling too hot. You know, there was a couple pops in me, and I had they're called chicken rolls. And it's kind of like, chicken cutlet rolled up in a pizza crust with cheese and sauce. And this was in the Bronx, of course, a little, Arthur Avenue. And they're very good, but I bit into it and I got like the cartilage.
Oh, perfect.
Nobody wants to hear the cartilage. And it was the part where they were trying to make her eat, and she's just screaming and screaming when she's tied to the chair.
Yeah, with the grandpa.
Too much. Boom! I was like Davey Lardass Hogan from Stand By Me. I was spraying all over the place. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna throw 2 more into the exploitation theme.
Please do, Doc.
Okay, so number 1, I'm gonna throw in as a kind of a adjacent category, next to kin. You can't meet Patrick Swayze, and even worse, Liam Neeson trying to play like they're hill folk from the Appalachian Mountains.
Oh wow, this is a new one for me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a mid to late 80s classic.
Wow.
What was the name?
It's called Next of Kin.
Never even heard of it.
Oh my God, you're missing
we'll have to check it.
Swayze at his finest.
Well, Swayze at his finest is Roadhouse. Everybody knows that.
Without a doubt. But this one, he goes, his brother, played by Liam Neeson with a bad accent.
Excellent.
Goes to Chicago, gets mixed up with some gangsters. I think one of them might be, I'm trying to think who it is, might be like Jane from Firefly or something like that. But it gets ridiculous, and then the family sends Swayze to the big city to try to help his brother. Awesome. The whole gimmick with cigarette vending machines and mob money.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's another adjacent genre is the Canucksploitation.
Canucksploitation, yeah. It's all around
Google
a similar theme of like the evil landowner. The evil businessman, kind of like Caddyshack,
Yeah.
And I'll go, this is a deep cut. You guys might not even be familiar with it. A guy at work turned me onto it. Have you ever seen or heard of 10,000 Maniacs?
Oh yeah. 10,000 Maniacs, classic. That's right up our alley.
The name has nothing to do with the plot of the movie.
Yeah, but isn't Robert Englund in it?
No, well, this one is the original one from like the 60s.
Oh, I don't.
Well, the 10,000 Maniacs Robert Englund connection is they say that he is the product.
He's the B son of 1,000 Maniacs. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
not the band.
I know there is a movie.
So I think that might be the name of it. If I got it wrong, I'm sure.
No, you're right. 1964, 10,000 Maniacs.
The Hills Have Eyes, to me, is one of the most terrifying films.
Have you ever seen the remake?
I have. I saw it in the theater.
Brutal.
So you had 2.
That was one of my first dates with my wife.
So you had 2. You had 2. The one that was out about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So funny quick story. They had a theater. I think it was in New York, where they were showing whatever the kids' movie was, whether it was Madagascar or Happy Feet or whatever this film was. They had all the kids come into the cinema to see this thing, 10:30 a.m. matinee with the moms and dads. They spooled up the wrong movie, if you've seen Hills Have Eyes 2, and I'm gonna spoil it, so I'm gonna give you 2 seconds, and you can come back in just a minute. I know I talk slow, but I'll be quick. But the movie opens up with a birth scene, and apparently they had a theater full of moms with all their kids just raging and
Hell yeah.
in
awesome.
math out the exit, went full Karen on this poor guy running.
That's like Fight Club.
So anyway, yeah,
but
so
yeah,
I would put that in the, if you haven't seen 10,000 Maniacs, it is just weird hot garbage, and it's worth checking out.
I gotta look up and you know what, the guy that did High Tension, if you ever seen the French movie High Tension, he's the one that did the remake.
Yeah, in Shudder, the streaming service, had a great collection of folk horror. You know, not necessarily Appalachian or woods, but a lot of them are English. But there is a similar tone, and you can get some great ideas from that as well.
Like what?
Like,
give us some examples, Mr. Royale.
Okay, so I mean, for example, you know, the old gods, a worshiping of the old gods, and the encroaching of the new religion that tries to take over all. One of the most beautiful things about Appalachia, as I said before, is their resiliency. Their resiliency to exist as their own thing, and they're innovative. They live off the, I don't want to make these broad statements, but let's just say things I really respect is that they're the unwillingness to change. And I think in a lot of these folk horror movies, it's paganism unwilling to accept the sovereign blindly.
Yeah, it's Wicker Man.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Robert Englund one is 2001 Maniacs.
Okay. All right.
So the one I'm talking about real quick is like this film where these people are driving through the South. They end up in this weird little town. It's like a brigadoon. All these people died during the Civil War, and then they come back, I guess, 100 years later or something.
Okay.
And they just, it's almost torture porn for the 60s. These poor people that they kidnapped from the road. One of the best scenes, because I know you guys like the kills, as Joe Bob would call it.
Yeah.
They put this person inside a barrel full of nails and rolled them down a hill. So
that's great.
I'm very, very stupid. Very bad. It's shot like garbage. The guy has made, I think he made 2 movies. The other one was one about an Egyptian guy serving like an Egyptian guy who's like a cannibal doing some kind of ritualistic dinner.
It's not Herschel. It's not a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie.
It might be.
It's not.
I'm not that knowledgeable.
If it's only 2 movies, he's like the king.
That's him.
Now I want to let Mr. Curtis in soon. Is there anything else you guys would like to share?
I'll give you a couple things. Just real quick, being the resident Appalachian in this group.
That's true.
Just a couple quick things. I am Dr. Metal, so I would feel negligent if I didn't give you some Appalachian folk metal selections. There is a whole genre with it. I think the best band out there, and I screw the name up all the time, is Panopticon. One of the best albums of the last couple years. They mix a lot of that. They've got a bunch of stuff. There's 3 or 4 other bands that fool around in this genre. So I'll put the link in the chat. Anybody wants to check that out. Carter Family, old-timey music. You got to love that. But this will give you, if you want something that has a little more of a modern flavor with a real good spooky vibe, you're going to get it from there too.
Awesome.
And then just real quick, hitting a couple things. Obviously, we've got the Shudder Mountains book itself, which you can get still in the store. Couple adjacent things that really play well in this genre. Tim Snyder all over it with his country.
Yep.
Meat Grinder Classics. He's got 2 of them out there. I can't wait to run these. You've got all of your Weird Frontier stuff that Dave Beatty puts out. Harwich Grinder makes perfect sense for this genre. I see it. It's my brother. And I'll give a plug out to the Paisan himself.
Yay.
I think this plays right into that whole vibe too. You can mash all that stuff together, figure out where you want to get your vibe going. Real good stuff. Like I even got sitting here too. I pulled this out just to share with the group. I think you could really
Absolutely. I almost brought that, Doc.
reskin this classic.
Yes.
Very easy. Very easy could get reskinned to have this flavor to it. So a lot of good options to play around in my neck of the woods, as they call it.
Doc, I swear my mother's eyes, I almost brought Doom of the Savage Kings to this show. I'd shown it before because I do find it very adjacent. And I'll admit that one of us, a springboard for one of us, was definitely the Shudder Mountains. So thank you for that stuff. Oh, and you brought up David Beatty, the real Catman. Forget about Peter Criss. I'm talking about Beatty. Go to the Goodman Games website or Beatty's Facebook page, and he's doing an auction for cats. All right, so you got to check that out. He's doing great work. He's saving a bunch of cats and kittens' lives for a good cause. You can get some really cool DCC stuff. So check that out. There's a link on the Goodman Games site. So please check that out. And now, here it comes. Now, look, I got something new. Thank you, guys. Stick around. I want you to hang out because we got a real cool guy. My Gumati went to the store. Look.
A spritzer.
It's Spritzer. Now it's not going to burn so much. Woo!
Yeah, but that's part of the fun is slapping it on the face.
I'll tell you what.
Doing the Home Alone.
My stupid self just got me in the eye.
Serves you right for breaking tradition.
I know. What? Listen, I said I need more Old Spice. She thought she was doing something. Oh.
Hey, so did you see that? That
I got spice lung. Pop,
the Ken doll that you could shave comes with Old Spice.
I saw that. I showed my wife that. Yeah. All right. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the man of the hour, Mr. Shudder Mountains himself, among many other things, Mr. Michael Curtis. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for inviting me to the party.
Thank you for your patience as we just shoved those slices down our mouth.
That's
Mr.
okay,
Curtis.
but you guys covered everything I was here to talk about already. So, we might as well just roll things out, I mean.
How you been, Mike?
I've been good. I mean, life is treating me well, and here I am on a Wednesday night hanging out with you guys, talking about Shudder Mountains and bad horror movies, and and getting Old Spice in our eyes. So
yeah. Before we get too deep, I want to let you know how much your work means to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people. What I respect about you is that, or many things, but when you got into the Shudder Mountains, you didn't fall upon lazy tropes or stereotypes. There is respect, there is culture, and there is research, both fictional and nonfiction, that you worked into your stuff. And as soon as I cracked it open, I said, holy cow, this is quality. And I learned a lot, not only from your writing and your approach to gaming, but your approach to cultural subjects as well. So standing ovation to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that my efforts were noticed and appreciated, because they were very much on the forefront of my mind when I sat down to do the Chain Coffin. I knew that it could be a touchy subject, and especially for a guy from New York writing about the Appalachian Mountains. I knew that there was I had to be careful. And it wasn't so difficult, because I just generally try to treat people like people, and I think that's a philosophy that gets me through life, and you can't go wrong about doing that when you're writing about a culture other than your own. So,
and what a deep well to pull from. So, and no pun intended, deep well. But now, so was it your decision to pursue Manly Wade Wellman themed gaming? Like what was the seed for that?
So I had read Manly Wade. Well, to go back. Yeah. So I have a deep abiding love for the mountains. I grew up on Long Island, New York, where like the highest bit of elevation is the county trash heap. That's literally the highest point on Long Island. So, but I had relatives in upstate New York, and we'd go up and spend time with them. And I always loved the mountains, because there's rocks, and we just got sand on Long Island. So, when I decided to go to college, I went to college, right in the shadow of the Catskill Mountains. So I have had a deep abiding love for that for the longest time. And somewhere along the line, somebody introduced me to Manly Wade Wellman, and I have Who Fears the Devil. I got that collection, and I read through it. I said, this is great. I love Manly Wade Wellman's ability to capture language. They're trying to have an ear for language, as a writer. And you know, oh, these are great stories. I didn't think much about it. And then there was a time when I was trying to come up with a new adventure for Goodman, and I had this mental image of these like adventurers dragging this coffin up over the side of a mountain, like during this massive thunderstorm. And that's where the first seed of the idea came from. And I said, there's, you know, it's such a clear image in my head. I said, I have to develop this. And Joe Goodman was always about DCC back in the day. He's like, you can pitch me anything, but you just have to show me where the Appendix N connection is.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
if you can tie that into something, you know, it's more likely he was going to give it the okay.
I see.
And then I realized that I thought I was channeling Manly Wade Wellman, but it wasn't until much later I realized I was actually channeling William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying.
Ah, I knew that was going to come up.
Yep. So, you know, you know, it's Southern Gothic, so it's, you know, Appalachian adjacent, you know, like you guys were always mentioning some of the, you know, some of the exploitation, which isn't technically, you know, Appalachian culture, is more deep South and everything, but that's okay because the South gets involved in this anyway as the project goes along.
Yep.
But I started putting together, and originally it was going to be a 10,000 word, you know, standard kind of skinny module. And then I said, well, Joe, I have this idea for the spinning puzzle. And the running joke is I am the Goodman Games, I'm the test pilot. So like if I screw something up, Harley is safe, you know, so they always put me up in the plane first, and if it crashes, you know, Curtis is just gone, but Harley's all right. So the Chain Coffin was like our first kind of real Kickstarter. And we did it to do the spinning puzzle. And Joe was like, well, if we're gonna do a Kickstarter, we have to have stretch goals. I said, I can just keep writing stuff. As you said, there was a lot to draw from. And, you know, I mean, I'm still going back to the Shudder Mountains. Like one of the few things that I have had any part in that I have written and, you know, questionably have been, you know, creative, that I have any desire to go back to. And that's very rare for me as a writer. Like usually when I get something, it's like I've been there and it's time to see what's next. But, you know, Lankmar and the Shudder Mountains are the two places I never get tired of going back to.
So, and that's a question in the chat, Michael. Can we expect any future Shudder Mountains material?
I mean, if the opportunity goes along, I mean, you know, Brendan LaSalle, he loves the Shudder Mountains, and he keeps going with
of course.
And I mean, I'm happy because the idea, the Shudder Mountains were never mine to begin with. It's like you know, people are always like, well, you know, like, oh, you know, it's like, what's the Shudder Mountain like, Mike? You know, it's like, oh, can I, you know, we need more stuff. And I'm like, it's there, man. It's like, go, you know, take it, run. You know, it's like, I didn't invent the Appalachian, you know, I didn't invent the Appalachian Mountains. I didn't invent the culture. I just, you know, managed to distill it down to role playing for, you know, maybe the first person to, well, not really. I mean, you have Werewolf Rage Against Appalachia, you know, which came back in the 90s. But, you know, I think I might have been one of the first, like, you know, to fantasize it, you know, to turn it into a fantasy setting. But I've always been.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I always have been like, it's out there, you know. I mean, that's what you mentioned. Oh, Death, and I'm glad that there are other people using the setting and producing stuff for it. You know, it has my blessing. Just, you know, just do it right. You know.
So other than Wellman, if and because I know you've done some extensive research on that. If people want to get more into the vibe, what would you suggest? I know one of my first things that I got my hands on way before I even got into role playing that got me into Appalachian culture was the Foxfire series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Foxfire series was one of the there actually is a bibliography in the Chain Coffin, and I do list most of my primary sources there, and the Foxfire books are definitely part of it. So, you know, if you want to do a deep dive into Appalachian culture and you're not familiar with it, get your hands on any of the Foxfire books. And, you know, I mean, because they are literally oral for those of any who do not know, they are literally like, you know, anthropology students were going into, you know, the Appalachian Mountains. It's like Georgia and South Carolina, and they were talking with people and just they were doing oral histories, and they would collect those and write these articles, and they would publish it in Foxfire magazine. And the Foxfire collections are just like those articles. I mean, they'll teach you everything from like, you know, like how to slaughter a pig to, you know, like ghost stories that, you know, that grandmama told me and everything. So
that's the one I had. That was like the the Tales of the Haints. And it's really cool. Now we have Neon Lord here representing Cousin Marty and Doc Metal. You heard of some of their movie picks. Do you have any movie favorites that fall within the Shudder family?
Yeah. There's one that nobody has mentioned yet, which I was getting nervous because I thought somebody might steal everything I had to bring to the show tonight. But yeah, there's a movie out there called Jug Face.
Oh
That
yeah.
may or may not have heard of. That is a very much set in the in kind of the Shudder Mountain, over it's about a weird little religious cult back in the mountains. And you had mentioned like folk horror, and there's a lot of folk horror that is inspired. I'm a big fan of the folk horror setting. Before there was even a term for it, I just always referred to it as the creepy town, like a strange town with a secret. And it's weird because depending on how you run your Shudder Mountain campaign, you are either the outsider, like if you could be the adventurer who's coming to the Shudder Mountains, and then you are like technically the protagonist of like the folk horror things, like you're the city folk coming in, and everybody is weird and who knows what they're up to. Or as somebody mentioned, the Tucker and Dale versus Evil. If you're playing if you're playing the Shudder Mountains and you are the Shudfolk, you're the locals, and you have to deal with these idiots. I mean, and they're bringing their problems to your neck of the woods, and you've got enough problems to deal with.
That is really neat, and I think we brought that up before about Appalachia, the outsider versus the local, and I think I think it's more of a New England tale, but Harvest Home. Are you familiar with Harvest Home by Tom Tryon? One of my favorite books. But there's city folk coming in.
Betty Davis is all right too.
What is that?
There's a movie with it. I think Betty Davis is in it.
Oh, really? I didn't know there's a movie version of it.
I think it was a made-for-TV movie.
Okay, cool.
But I have seen it. Yeah.
And
right. As you mentioned New England, of course, so we have to go to, Grandpa Theobald. We have to talk about Lovecraft. I mean, Lovecraft, he was mostly known for, his New England, but he has a couple of stories, the Lurking Fear, which is set in Catskills. And there's a place in the Shudder Mountain Gazetteer. There's a house that some rich people built like in the back hollows, and like things have gone horribly wrong with it. The inspiration for that was Lovecraft's The Lurking Fear, and somebody you mentioned early, Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hell House.
Yes.
So the two of those are kind of, so I'm drawing from, as I said, you guys mentioned a lot of the stuff where, I was pulling stuff for anyway. But there was a couple, again, like these, like the Lovecraft stories I draw from are all mentioned in the Chain Coffin bibliography. So yeah.
There is something timeless about the Shudder Mountains. And there's something timeless about Manly and Wade Wellman as well. When I first started reading them, I was very surprised to read about a truck. There's like in terms of chronology, that you could do a modern day Shudder Mountain situation, and like I said, one of us kind of drew from that too. Like, or what if there's an something atomic that happens, and we keep going, and like it's somewhere in between. So like Weird Frontiers and DCC, like Doc Metal said about the Hound, like it can exist in many different ways.
Yeah, and as you the zine that you and Big Tim DeShane worked on, I mean, that is I contributed to that, but that was very much part of, that's part and parcel of that whole kind of fantasy Americana that we haven't done a lot of, but it's there, I mean, so I mean, even Dave Beatty's Carnival of the Damned, that, I mean,
yes, absolutely.
That's a hop, skip, and a jump from, something wicked this way comes. So, and Bradbury is as Americana, horror and science fiction as you can get, pretty much. So,
one of my favorites of all time, man. I try to read that at least most of it every year. Something wicked this way comes. Goodnight, John Boy. The Neon Lord says.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we're talking about how, we were talking about, the Shud folks are seen, they're being, they are this kind of caring, looking out for their own, they're not evil backwoods cannibals or anything. I mean, the Waltons is perfect inspiration for like, kind of like your typical Shud folk family. I mean, extended family, very welcoming to outsiders, mind your manners and everything, but, maybe you get to, share a bedroom with John Boy, I mean, so
he probably slept in the chicken coop anyway.
Yeah. But
how about some good Appalachian eating?
Some good Appalachian music.
Eating.
Oh, eating. Oh, well, I mean, see, as I said, I am a New York guy, so
Yep.
I didn't want to get too far into that. But in the hardback, I did manage to get together some recipes from the Foxfire book.
That's why I'm bringing that up. Yep.
There's some molasses candy recipes in there. There's
molasses.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm a big blackstrap molasses fan.
I even found a recipe for possum. So I mean,
I was gonna say possum, but I figured that was a bit too on the nose.
Neon Lord, you ever have possum?
I would not eat possum.
They're one of my least favorite animals.
It's on my list. I've eaten a lot of wild things in my day, and possum is not going to be on it.
What's the wildest thing you've eaten, Neon Lord?
I'd say zebra.
Wow,
it's definitely the wildest.
How about you, Doc?
I'll go with gator.
Okay,
gator's good though.
It tastes like chicken.
That all tastes like chicken, except for zebra's disgusting.
Michael, how about you?
Either bear or scorpions, depending on where you go.
You ate bear?
Yeah.
I've definitely eaten a scorpion. Well, I swallowed a scorpion.
Yeah, I've had scorpion.
Bottom of a bottle of mezcal one night.
Oh, that's what, Poltergeist 2?
Yes, that's right.
Tequila worm.
And yes, Elena, possums are cute, but I found a dead one in the goat shed at my house in the middle of summer after it was dead for about 3 weeks, and it was blown up like a big meat balloon. So every time I see one now, it triggers me.
Yeah, I had one under my deck dead like that. I had to fish out. The kids are like, "What's that, Dad?" I'm like, "Look away, kids."
It's gonna blow. Pop.
One of the nastiest things though was I had a chunk of goat that still had skin and like some hair on it.
Oh yeah.
I did it as kind of a dare, and I regretted it. It was absolutely disgusting.
Was this in the desert?
It was in the desert, yeah.
Yeah.
In a movie with many quotable moments still, I mean, everybody loves Christmas Vacation, but you just can't beat, where's Eddie? He usually eats these things. that not since he heard they are high in cholesterol, which is even better.
Now, Michael, what I also want to bring up is the complete other end of the spectrum. One of my favorite, and many, I mean, a lot of your stuff is my favorite, and I think a lot of people will join me on this too. They've probably experienced it very early on in their DCC careers, is Frozen in Time. Doc Metal's dancing.
That's my favorite of all time.
Well, thank you.
Bar none.
Neon Lord, are you familiar with Frozen in Time?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
I'm sure. Very, the bridge to the neon future, or the remains of the neon future. That I mean, we're talking about Appalachia, and now next thing we're talking about time traveling robots and Cro-Mags and a giant glacier.
Well, yes, but it's still in my idiom because you do have all these robots or anything, but you also have cavemen. You have these this kind of tribal insular society who has to deal with these outsiders.
You're right. I see the connection.
Understanding. I just disguise my influences really well. That's it. It's like
reskinning. Yeah.
Right.
We got a question from John David Speaks. Mr. Curtis, what is your favorite module before 66.5 that you want to bring back?
God.
Great question.
I mean, there are literally 66 modules before that, and I've not read all of them, so I can't answer that one.
You can't name your favorite kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's because I have not read all of them. I've read a lot of them. And like, if I say something, I'm sure like a week from now, I'll read like another one, like, oh, this one is so much more better.
That one. Yeah.
So that's it.
And then there's another one. Ask Michael about his War Crawl campaign.
Oh yeah, that was the was that somebody? Oh yeah, I think maybe, but yeah, the War Crawl campaign. That was how we survived the first summer of COVID. When everybody was getting online and realizing that we were all, everybody had the summer off for some strange reason. It's like so I had always had this plan to run this massive kind of war game role playing diplomacy campaign, and just could never do it because I never had enough people. And then that summer I ran a 15-person campaign. We had three games a week. Everybody was split up according to alignment. There was like a lawful group, there was a neutral group, and there was a chaotic group, and they were all fighting to determine who would rule the multiverse. So we ended up running 8 weeks. So that was 24 game sessions, and then all total over the course of the campaign, and then we had like one big wrap-up session. And I was like, every team was kind of scoring points to determine, the course of the war, and law won by the nose. So yeah,
Incredible.
no.
I was just going to ask you a question. I forgot. I'll try to have it come back to me. But
Sure.
so speaking about play, so excited to play Frozen in Time at War of Cyclops Con. What I want to go around the table right now. Con season, it's out of the gate. Neon Lord, you got stuff coming up, don't you?
I got tons of stuff. I just talked to Lou. It's looking like what's that one? Game Hole Con. Game Hole Con it's looking like it's going to be a go. I will be there.
Excellent. Glad to hear that.
A lot of local ones. So nobody's going to know about. But yeah, Game Hole Con's the big one that me and Lou.
See, nobody's going to know about him. You're in upstate New York. So if you want to go to Neoterax and kill some mutants, get in touch with the Neon Lord and his game, Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. You got some news for us?
Not really.
Mailman?
I mean, the main books came today, but I mean, this isn't my show. Like,
everybody gets their time to shine.
All right, well,
Rock Metal, what do you got on the books?
I got Rising Phoenix in Milford, Mass this weekend.
Yeah.
If you're there, you'll see me. I'm running something, I think, on Friday morning. And otherwise, I will be playing a ton of games.
All right. And Mr. Curtis, you are packing your bags. You are going on tour.
Well, yeah. Not the first one is in a couple of weeks, and I get to go on tour from the comfort of my own home, and that's of course War of the Cyclops Con, and I will be running. I'm running my time theme adventures. I'm bringing out some old favorites, and I'm running the Tower Out of Time, and then I'm running Frozen in Time. So so giving some people a chance who never, because I haven't run those in years, to get a chance with people.
Oh, that's
those
awesome.
with me. And then not long after that, it's over to the UK to run some of my classics, including Black Mountain Lights. So I'm going to run some Shudder Mountains for the Brits. So
Very good.
So I'm really looking forward to that. So I see, because it's very surprising of how much the Chain Coffin has been embraced by people outside of America.
Yeah.
I did an interview not too long ago with our French translator, and he didn't know anything about Manly Way Wellman, and the French fans didn't really. So he had me talk for an hour and cover the Shudder Mountains and Manly Way Wellman and everything. And it was funny, is he's like, there are a lot of the same stereotypes in the mountains here in France. So I was like, I mean, it's universal.
It is. I was going to say there's something very universal about the Shudfolk.
Mm-hmm. And it's all the same stereotypes too. It's like it's like the mountain, the people who live on the mountains are all backward and everything, and it's that same kind of the flatlanders versus mountain civilization versus people who are living closer to nature and everything, and all the same ill-formed opinions and prejudices.
We think we become more civilized the farther away we get from nature, and I don't think that's reality.
We might become more civilized, but we don't become more sane. That's the problem.
Or more intelligent. Yeah, sure.
You're teetering on Theodore Kaczynski levels of weirdness right now, Joey.
Hey, don't open that package I sent you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I am going to take the plunge and have my first big con experience. And I think Big Tim D talked me into Gen Con, and I think I'd like to help out at the Goodman booth. So Knoxwell, coming from Newfoundland, perhaps we will meet up and high five and have a slice together. So I look forward to meeting a bunch of you in person. That's still in the works, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to make that. Tim and I discussed that. We had lunch over a big chocolate sundae up at the casino. And he said, "What do you think?" And my wife says, "You're going." So if Gumari says you're going, I don't think I got a choice.
If the wife tells you you're going, you got no choice.
Don't threaten me with
argument you don't want to get involved in.
I always told you I liked that woman.
Yeah.
I know. So that'll be cool. So, Mr. Curtis, the guys know this too, but we've been talking this season about never growing up completely. Mm-hmm. And when you do stuff, or if you get in a rut, think about what your 12-year-old self would say to you now. What would you, and not what would you tell your 12-year-old self back then? Like, keep all your Migos in the package and don't throw away your G.I. Joes and buy all this stuff. But what would you hope your 12-year-old, and this is a nice thing, this is a good thing. What would you hope the 12-year-old Mike Curtis would say to you now?
That's your job?
That was my answer.
That's when I was 12 years old, I was reading Dragon magazine and the TSR profiles they used to put in around the center of it, where they would have like little interviews with like Jeff Grubb and Mike Carr, or everybody who was working with TSR. And I was like as every 12-year-old in the 80s was just like, this must be the best job ever, I mean. And I had I always loved role-playing things, but I never imagined that I would be like working full-time in the industry, being in charge of like an entire, several role-playing lines at this point, and traveling around running games for people, and and have like a 401k and benefits because of it. Because I freelanced for a long time, and I thought I won the lottery then. So, the fact that now this is my full-time, grown-up job, I feel like I've won the lottery twice. So, yeah.
Well done. Well done. Well deserved.
Yeah. That's probably the only thing in my life I would have impressed 12-year-old me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I have a thought real quick.
Please.
So, how you always say like, oh, tell your 12-year-old don't open the G.I. Joes and all that stuff. If you told your 12-year-old self that, you wouldn't have an appreciation for them because you never would have been able to play with them.
I'll agree with that.
100%.
Open it up.
So I don't open anything.
Buy 2 of them. Get Nana to buy you 2.
There you go.
And hey, come buy some new ones. They're still making them.
They certainly are, Doc.
Classifieds. Go get your classifieds. They're awesome. I haven't got any yet, but they look awesome. But I'm not a Joe guy though.
Yeah,
and how come
I will never understand why you're not a G.I. Joe guy. I know you're a Turtles guy, but I'm a tried and true Joe guy. The classified line is beautiful. I saw that they're going to have Mego style Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. Like, man, Michael, what were some of your favorite toys growing up?
I was born in 72, so I was 5 years old when Star Wars dropped. So of course, I had the original seven Star Wars figures. So it was Star Wars, and then G.I. Joe came along, and they were the right size, so you could play with them and everything. And then after G.I. Joe, I think I was just beginning like Master He-Man came out, Masters of the Universe, and I was just a little bit too old for it at that point.
Sure.
Yeah, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I remember reading the black and white aired in Eastman Comics. So again, I was a little bit too old for that, but I played the heck out of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and other strangest role-playing game. I'll tell you that much. So
yeah, Neon Lord, you're a big fan of that stuff, huh?
Yeah, that's my jam. The TMNT Palladium.
So before we go, and speaking of comic books, there's something that has to be mentioned. There, speaking of Appalachian influences, there's a comic book series. It was a short run. I think it was like 12 issues, and then maybe there was a 4-issue series of it. It was the name of it, but it's the guy who created the Goon, and the series is called Hillbilly. And I read this, and I was like, he stole my brain, because it is literally about a fantasy Appalachian setting. And we have the main character is the hillbilly, who is this huge guy with a cleaver he got from the devil, and he is hunting witches. So
where does he live? Let's get him.
I don't know if they've collected them in trade paperback yet, but if you're into the Shudder Mountains and you're looking for inspiration, you can track down Hillbilly. I hardly recommend it. That and as you said, Harrow County were the 2 ones that I discovered after I finished doing the Chain Coffin. It's like, where the hell was this when I was writing the Chain Coffin?
Doc, are you familiar with Hillbilly?
Yes, I've read that. And then Harrow County was one over COVID. Our library will get anything in the state for you, and anything they have, and they have a good comic selection. And I would just run the rack with stuff I hadn't read before. And I pulled all 7 trades of that and read that over COVID, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, the library's been getting good stuff by me too. A lot of trade paperbacks and not just your standard, Captain America stuff, all sorts of deep cuts.
No, they have a little bit of everything up here. I'm currently going back, and I know I missed the boat on this because I'm not a DC guy. I'm reading all the Doom Patrol stuff that Morrison did back in the day, which is wild.
Beautiful stuff.
But yeah, Harrow County is amazing. There's something else I read that had the Shud vibe too, and I'm just trying to remember what it was. But anyway, it'll come to me at a later. Speaking of cons, there are 3 of us here that were former guests at one of the inaugural Tim Cons. I think we should call him out on if TimCon 2023 is going to happen at any point this summer in scenic North Smithfield.
So I won't keep Elena too long, but I do have a funny Michael Curtis story from TimCon. So I go up there and I'm fanboying. I could barely talk. I'm stuttering, and I have Michael sign a Chain Coffin thing for me and all that. And I sat down. Your table was full. You were doing your thing, and I was playing with Brendan, and I was just listening from the other side. And we were in the middle of adventure. We were going down an adventure for quite some time. And I don't know if it was like 20 or 30 minutes into your game, and there was a TPK.
Yeah, that was two was running Caverns of Thracia, it turned out. I never played Caverns of Thracia before, but in retrospect, when we were I was working on it for something else, and I was just like, hey, I remember this. That was we made the worst possible decision, that any first level group of characters could do with Caverns of Thracia. Like we ended up like right in the middle of like the high ritual with 7 hit die, evil priests and stuff, and we thought we were all going to be like rescuing like prisoners and everything, and it was TPK in like the first 20
It's like
minutes.
a half-hour game. And like you guys were all sitting around having hot dogs, and we're like, not even close. Yeah, that was funny.
As much as you run stuff, Michael, and write stuff, is it still a thrill to get to sit at the table and just play?
Yes, because I very rarely get to play, but I will be admitting is that because I run stuff so often, like I'm like the perpetual DM. It's sometimes it's difficult to turn that part of my brain off and just kind of go along with it. There's part of me who's like, I don't want to judge like what the other judge is doing, like, oh, that's not how I would run that. But there's part of my brain which is always saying that, like, oh, like, so so sometimes I don't mind if I'm playing 30 minutes and it's TPK, because then I just get to hang out and talk with people that I don't get a chance to see. So
Neon Lord, we talked about that too. You're much more of a judge than a player, right?
Yeah. Forever DM.
Forever DM. There are those out there.
Yeah, I very rarely get to play. Only thing I ever get to play is WHBA.
Yep.
See Stacy.
The problem for me is often like I come over like I know like the campaign I want to play, and then I realize it's like nobody else would run this cockamamie idea, so like I have to do it if I want to be involved in it whatsoever. So
especially when you're a world builder, like Michael and Bri, you guys have built worlds.
Mm-hmm.
And those worlds so well, the locations, the smells, how the stores are stocked, that it would be kind of hard to pass that torch to somebody else and play in their version of your world.
Well, see, here's the thing. I'll drop some wisdom here on the pizza party. All right? So this is my theory. There are 2 types of, and I'm not even game designers. There are 2 types of like DMs, judges, referees, and the 2 people who are running the game. There are homesteaders and there are Appleseeds. So Appleseeds are the people, they come to this area, they have an idea and they create something, and and they put everything together and like, wow, this is great, this is wonderful. I wonder what's down there, and they just walk away. They leave their thing away. And then there are homesteaders who are people like Ed Greenwood, who like he created a campaign, his campaign world in 1960 whatever, before there was even D&D, and the Forgotten Realms has been going on for 40 years now. And he's the one who can tell you like what's in that store, what you can get trade from that and everything. And I'm like, half the time when I'm running a game, I'm like, I ask the players like, hey, what's down that street? Or like, is there a store here or anything like that? Because I like that collaborative thing. And there's one less thing I have to worry about. I just keep things going on trail. So I have been a perpetual Appleseed my entire life. It's like I'll create something and I run it for a little while, and then I'm just like, it's time to move on to the next thing, because we only have so much time in this life, and I don't want to be playing the same campaign for 40 years. I want to see what's coming next. And that's how I run games. That's how I write. That's how I design. So.
Words of wisdom from the professor.
That's it. And that's not a judgment call either.
Yeah.
that you know, whatever makes you happy, because you know we don't have too much time on this world, so do what makes you happy, as long as you don't harm anybody else doing it. So that's it.
And we don't have any more time on this show, unfortunately. We could go on for another hour. Michael, will you come back sometime?
Yeah, anytime. I'm a cheap date, man. Is, you know, if you ask me to come on and I'm not doing something that night, I'll come back anytime. I'll do it.
All right. Shudder Mountains aside, I want to go around the table real quick. Guys, what's one thing you want to tell the world about, some piece of media that you've experienced lately that you think people like us will like? What's the matter, Neon Lord?
You always do this, and I'm not prepared.
You don't have to show anything. You
But I'm just too busy with like doing stuff. Like,
but what's a movie that the world needs to watch? I'm not crucifying you for crying out loud.
The kids versus aliens.
Kids versus aliens. Started it last night. I got to finish it tonight.
It's awesome.
Kids versus aliens. Oh, and mine is Paper Girls. So I've read the comics, but I started to watch the show with my wife. And Paper Girls is a great, great trip. I love it. Highly recommend it.
And the show's different enough from the comic that you can enjoy both on the same level. Very well done.
Yep. 2 different restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Doc?
I don't have anything cool to throw out into the room of cool. It's been kind of quiet. A lot of sports, a lot of kids' sports. But I'll throw out this nice little word of wisdom. We like that stuff. One day, you'll be just a memory for some people. Do your best to be a good one.
Wow.
Doc,
I like that, Doc.
You see that orange glow right there? You know what that is? That's a Oozinator, baby.
Bring that bad boy.
Hey, show the world the Oozinator. Show the world the Oozinator.
I'll go grab it real quick.
Michael, how about a piece of media that you'd like to feed everybody?
I am late to the party, but you know, because I didn't have it, but now I got Showtime just because of this. But I am loving the hell out of Yellow Jackets. You know,
yeah, that's on my list. I've been hearing a lot about this.
It is all up. It's all up in my. It is in every one of my buttons. I'm loving it. No.
Yeah, I hear it's awesome. So real quick, Elena, do we have like 2 more minutes? Are you okay with that? Okay, we got to show the world the Oozinator because I think fans of DCC and Neon Lords will love this. Brian, the Neon Lord, is now a very proud owner of the Super Soaker Oozinator.
Look at that. How amazing. Now,
this is a family show, but Doc, do you want to give a little bit of history on the Oozinator?
The commercial's irrelevant. We're in the presence of greatness of the man who did the packaging, right? You did the whole packaging for that bad boy.
Yeah, it's it was a labor of love.
I love it. It's fantastic.
We only have 2 minutes. So I will say, in the immortal words of the Conan movie, that is a story for another time.
But folks, if you're into cool stuff, check out the Oozinator. Do a Google search for that.
I even have a refill pack back there too on card.
Well, and that's crazy because both products, both the Oozinator and Yellow Jackets, are both made by the same company.
The yellow, what do you mean?
That is, I believe that was put out. I have to double check. I think that was put out by the entertainment company, that the parent company that created.
I see what you're saying there.
They're very prolific. They also have some movie about role-playing games out right now that is actually really good.
Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna get this signed, but you definitely have to sign the Oozinator. But it's massive.
We will make it happen.
I have a feeling we'll be hooking up. Yes, that Yellow Jackets is made by the same company.
Okay, so there is that connection there. Do yourselves a favor and do a YouTube search for the Oozinator commercial to get the gist of what we're talking about.
Make sure your kids are not in the room to enjoy this kid-focused product.
That is correct. We will not be posting this in the chat. But good times from the Super Soaker family.
It's a great story, definitely. Well, so come to Ravioli for Randy and we'll talk about it.
Yes, on Raviolis for Randy, Brian and I's other show, we can get more into that. It's a little bit more blue. So that's that. Listen, I'm going to end like we do from my friend Mr. Rogers. Some words of wisdom before we go. This is about progress. So we're making the connection from the wisdom check, okay? Fred says, as you grow, I trust that you are finding many more ways to show and tell people that you love them. Those are the most important things that you'll ever learn to do. Boys and girls, thank you for your time. I love you all, and we'll see you next month on Joey's Pizza Party. Thank you, everybody. Good night.